Good morning and welcome to another edition of Perspectives, a current affairs discussion program on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi of November every year as the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. The day encourages accountability through the conduct of impartial, speedy and effective investigations into violence against journalists as well as bringing to remedies. The proclamation of the day condemns all forms of violence against journalists and media workers with a charge on UN member states to put in more efforts to prevent violence against them, and equally draws attention to the global conviction rate for violent crimes against journalists. And 1,700 journalists have been killed, with a staggering 90% of these cases remaining unresolved, thereby awareness. In Nigeria, there are reports of the arrest, intimidation, and maltreatment of over 30 journalists covering the recent protest against the cost of living in the country. Ahead of the day's observance tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 2nd day of November 2024, this edition of Perspectives shall discuss how to promote a safe and enabling environment for journalists to do their work independently and without undue interference. Joining us on the program this morning is our senior lecturer with the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies, Benue State University. He is an erudite scholar of international repute. I talk of Dr. Ben Ogbu. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
My pleasure.
All right. My name is Fanen Kuanum. We'll do due diligence to introduce to you our next guest and, of course, the ones we're still expecting on the program. All right, you're still listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. And then, like I said, we are also joined by a veteran journalist, and the former editor of The Voice newspaper, Makurdi, Chief Otse Otokpa. So it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much once more.
All right. So we set the conversation rolling, but before then, I'd like us to remember that Perspectives is an audience participatory program, and at 10 o'clock, the phone line will be open for you to join the conversation. And in the meantime, the telephone number dedicated for SMS and WhatsApp, which is 0912 699 69404. That is 0912 699 9404 is already active for you to send in your WhatsApp and text messages. You can send your inputs through that. Remember to follow us on our social media handles. At Facebook, we are Agate Radio and TV, Agate Radio TV, one word there. Join us on YouTube, join us on Instagram, and then X, formerly Twitter. And then you can also join us via www.agateradiotv.com. We are also present on if you can download our app in the Google Play Store. We are there, or on your iOS devices. You can also get to hear us there. And then also you can get our radio apps differently on your devices. All right, so we now proceed with the issue of the day. And I'd like to start with you, Chief Otokpa. So, what is the significance of the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists to journalists elsewhere and, of course, in our domain here?
Thank you very much. The journalist is the reporter who picks facts and process professionally and publish it to be news. It is that fact of putting the story and publishing it that offends some persons and which puts the life of the journalist on the line. But that notwithstanding, we must do the job because the journalist is the conscience of the society. And once the journalist does not do his job and is handicapped, then the society has a problem. So that's why whatever we do to protect the journalists must be done worldwide. World over it has been a problem, but even Nigeria here, it has been a problem. So what we're celebrating is very important. The journalist must be allowed to do his job freely. So the question,
I'm your student. The fact that what you taught me, and I'm here practicing right before your presence.
My very pleasure.
And then also for the fact that it is critically, with succinct examples, underscore the relevance of journalists in the society.
Yes, thank you very much. And let me pick it from where my boss and my professional teacher, Chief Otse Otokpa, stopped. It's important for me to recognize the fact that he taught me page planning and some rudiments of print journalism at the Voice newspaper many years ago. So it's my pleasure to be part of this program with you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
And like you said, and like he said, the journalists perform a very critical role in society. But fundamental to that is the fact that information is critical to the survival of any society globally. There is no society in the world, irrespective of the level of advancement and development, that can exist without, provision of relevant information that will cause some level of interaction and transaction. So the journalist has a duty to gather information, process them, and disseminate to target population. And to do that, usually you will have to trample on some interest because critical to the news source is the issue of privacy. Every human being wants to remain in that domain of privacy, doesn't want things to be published about him or her. So in carrying out, duties as a journalist, journalists are usually at risk of tampering with privacies of individuals. And so it put them at risk. And given the fact that provision of information is critical to survival of society, it is a relevant call to action by the United Nations to insist that a very permissive environment is provided for journalists to gather information, to process them, and disseminate them in their credible nature to target population. So I commend the United Nations once again for insisting that journalists should have the right environment to gather information and process them in the interest of society. So it's a relevant day and a relevant call to action by the United Nations.
All right, thank you very much. Chief Otse, you have practiced journalism and you've been in the field and you are aware of the threats that most journalists face. Could you let us into some of these threats that are critical of the Nigerian journalist?
As Dr. Ogbu said, every person cherishes his own privacy.
Yes.
And it is that privacy that a lot of things go wrong. And it is those things that go wrong that journalists want the public to know. Most public officers they are not what they appear to be. What they are outside is public relations. But deep down, a lot of things go wrong. Then the journalist, the critical one for that matter, yes, to see the story behind the story. So for to be known as really they are. But the journalist has the duty. Of course, it's very dangerous anyway, because anything can happen to a journalist on that line. That's the duty to go and find out what the people should know about a particular person. Because if a public office, for instance, they are public property and should be open to the public, but they are not. So for hiding certain things, and they would like to see the journalist. And a lot of threat. Well, in my own, I have come across that severally as a reporter, then as an editor. I wouldn't like to name names, but I was here some months back when I told you the problem I had with the chairman or the board of the Voice. I don't make sure anybody knows. He brought a piece on the governor of the state, as he must publish it unedited. I told him, no, sir, I can't publish unedited. It must be edited because there's a paragraph. As long as I know the line, I published it, he threatened, but he left me. Then there's another particular issue. There's one man called Ocho Chibo. Ocho went to the police station for a different thing entirely. Then he saw a corpse lying down in the front of the cell. Then he said, "Oh, I want to do this like this." One sergeant, unknown to the man, Ocho carried the recorder. Leave them as well as they die every time. You get it? Which means that some people died. So Ocho came and wrote the story. When the story was published, police came for him. I told him no. He was a reporter, I'm the editor. Leave him pick me. But they refused to pick me. So along the line we cited. But what I'm trying to say in fact is that a lot of things go wrong and journalists come across them. But people don't want to be done. So that's what it is. And for that, but as a journalist, you must be prepared to face some inconveniences to do your job because you have to protect people's interest. You are the eye of the public, you are the conscience of the society. So you must bring out what they need to know, except where security is involved. So thank you a lot.
All right, thank you. Dr. Ogbu, closely related to that question, how you are conducting researches every in our society?
Well, every society, the actors in every society, I mean actors in institutions of government and non-governmental institutions, reflect the character of that society. And that is to say that there is nobody in a society that can act outside the context of the society. So already we are in a society that is prone to violence and impunity in many aspects of our social lives. And so journalists are victims of this impunity and violence and unconstitutional disposition of managers of some of these public institutions. They take laws into their hands because we must establish very fundamentally the fact that the activities of journalists are not without the backing of the law. Journalists operate within the provisions of the law. And chapter 2, subsection 22
yes.
is very clear about it, that the mass media, the press, radio, television, and other agencies of the mass media shall at all times be free to uphold the fundamental objective and directive principles of state policy and to hold government accountable to the people. It's a provision that I describe as institutional. It's dedicated to journalists to carry out their business without any form of harassment. But the story is different, like Chief said. The story is different because we have government actors who disregard constitutional provision. And so they go outside the domain of their authority to inflict mental, physical injuries on journalists. And that has a lot of implication on the performance of journalists in Nigeria. And until that is checked, we may not be able to arrive at a platform where we will allow journalists to generate very credible and dependable information that can further the good of society. So for the society to function well, the actors must give recognition to the constitutional provision that journalists have to gather information and process them and disseminate to target population. And until that is done, like I said, we may not be able to arrive at what we are looking for in terms of development and social changes.
All right, thank you very much. And you touched on a point which I also expected keenly that we're going to discuss, especially for the fact that we have a legal practitioner amidst us. Yeah. So once he is already seated, I would take up with him, quickly on that. But just before that, Chapter 2, Section 22, as you quoted, recently there has been clamor at the House of Representatives. Some people saying that our mention in the Constitution is good, but restricted by the word personal. I don't want to be very explicit about that. Personal. So they were moving for the amendment of the Constitution that word personal be removed so they have a wider practice. So Dr. Ogbu, don't you think the Chapter 2, Section 22 is too general for the journalist?
Well, I don't know what you mean by too general.
Yeah, the mass media. So I was thinking maybe it will get down to the journalist.
No,
as a person.
you see, I don't think that there is a problem.
Okay.
Law should provide a framework, okay, for implementation. And that law is opened enough to accommodate, because it said the press, radio, and it's very explicit. There are a couple of breakdowns in that section. He said the press, radio, television, and other agencies of the mass media shall at all times be free. So I think that it will not be correct to tamper with that provision, because it simply provides the framework, institutional framework for journalists to gather information and to process them and disseminate to target population. So if you narrow it to a personal thing, it reduces it compromises the very essence.
Timothy Amaatimin, Barrister, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. My pleasure too.
All right. So without wasting much time, Barrister, let me start with you. Let me get to you. I mean, what are the legal,
State of the realm that the Constitution recognizes? Not just the Nigerian Constitution, you have the African Charter on People's Right and other international conventions that have recognized the right of journalists in this country. And Section 39 of the Constitution has provided for the freedom of expression and the press. And that is the ground known of Nigeria. And that section recognizes very, very important aspect of the work journalists do. And just by way of summary, every person have the right to freedom of expression, including holding opinion and receiving and impacting ideas and information without interference. Now, it is extended to include individuals have the right to own, establish, and operate any medium for disseminating information, ideas, and opinion. Now, no government. These rights are the inalienable rights of citizens. And journalists are equally citizens. And no government gives you this right. It is by nature that you have this right,
of course,
guaranteed under the Constitution. Now, interestingly, if you look at Section 22 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that provided for the directive principle for state policy, it encapsulates a very interesting aspect of this, that it is supposed to be an official policy of government to recognize journalism, the media, its operation and its ethics in its fullest form. So you can see that the Nigerian Constitution have provided copiously for the rights of journalists in this country. And that takes me to this case, the case of Momo versus Senate, where a journalist reported proceedings at the Senate, and he unraveled corruption that took place in the Senate at that time. And then the Senate summoned him to disclose the source of information. And he ran to court, and the court agreed with him that as a journalist, he had that protection, not to disclose the source of his information. So you can see that it's one very interesting, aspect of our national life that is very, very rich, very encompassing, beyond just educating citizens, beyond just passing information, beyond creating opinion, because journalists have a way of affecting national development. Yeah. They act as checks and balances on government, or even the three arms of government. You see journalists, checkmating by way of reporting some either abuse of laws or due process in the implementation of government policies and all that. So you can see, and of a truth, no government, no nation survives without a free press.
All right, let's hold it there for now. We'll get back to that. So, Chief Otokpa, back to you. How does impunity against journalists actually affect the quality of journalism?
The journalist is primarily a human being, and everybody wants to be safe to start with. So when the journalist goes out for his assignment and his life is threatened, definitely his court of report will be watered. And when there's an incident, the public, let's say war for instance, the public wants to hear from the battlefield, not just to hear, but even to read, and want to see pictures from the battlefield. But the pictures and materials are brought by human beings, that's the journalist, because that's the crux of journalism, not going to get a press release. Those are not issues. The journalist is the one that takes the story behind the story. And that is where the person supposed to give this, who is affected, wants to protect himself or herself. And once that is done, the journalist is not safe. You see, I always bring the issue of my friend when he taught me, Delegiwa taught me briefly when I was in Lagos. That is the height of impunity against journalism and not journalists in this country. And you see, it happens not in Nigeria, it's all over the world, happens everywhere. Public actors want to block the way of journalists getting their jobs. And if you scientists, you get injured, therefore get killed. All over the world, journalists missing, you are maimed, you are beat, even your local environment here. When you get around some politicians, when what they say is not what they do, when you want to get the story out, some of the boys are one of us. Because once the proper stories are not out, it affects the social psyche. And what's supposed to be done, the political officers is not done. So that's the problem. It affects all of us.
All right. So, Dr. Ogbu, so back to you. I'd like you to particularly address to the issue of the psychological impact of this impunity against journalists. You know, I have observed, being in the field for the few years I have observed that most journalists have become so comfortable, operating as if they were an investigative journalist. So.
Okay. Now, let's more fundamental to the issue of harassment, attacks, and all of that on journalists that have this conversation has root in the critical issue of motivation. The issue of motivation or demotivation of journalists is even more, threatening or affect the psychology of journalists more than carrying arms against them. In most media houses in Nigeria, journalists are poorly paid. They work under very, very inhuman environment. You do not expect performance or optimum performance from a journalist who is highly demotivated in terms of access to good living condition. So, and many of the media houses, I'm not sure, I don't have the data, they do not think that journalists need to be insured. Their lives need to be insured. If they do not have insurance protection, then their disposition to risk taking, like Chief Otokpa said earlier, will be minimal. And a journalist is a risk taker. He's somebody that must go in and dig beyond the face value of what he's seen and to report credible, dependable information to the people. So when they are not properly motivated, it affects their social disposition to information gathering, processing, and dissemination. So it's a very bad situation. And again, we are in a society where once you have money, then you have everything. And everything goes for you. And so journalists they are thinking towards, content generation appear to be modulated by some money bags who think that once they drop something on the table, they can do their bidding. So it affects a lot of the psychology of journalists. And when the issue of psychology you are talking about doesn't start and end with its implication on the journalist, it has a broader, wider, more dangerous implication on the larger society. Because the journalist is the first gatekeeper. He's the one that is processing the information. He's the one that is choosing content from the field or from the beat that is given. And so once that, gatekeeping process is compromised from the very start, that is how the society will be reflected. So if you carry stories that have content that are false and inaccurate, and then you disseminate them, then you are sensitizing and mobilizing society along the advocacy of being insincere, along the thought systems of incorrect reasoning and mutilated thinking. It affects the wider society in ways that we cannot describe. So the issue of managing the psychology of journalists towards generating optimum performance is critical to the very root of society.
Okay, before I move to the next guest, you mentioned the issue of motivation and demotivation, and a potential solution to those issues.
Well, I think that question is better. You should direct that question to a practitioner who has suffered and has gained. He has gained and suffered
experientially
from this. So he should be able to tell us what exactly. If you tell me to recommend, I would generally say that journalists, the welfare and well-being of journalists should be well protected.
Okay. All right, Chief. The question was moved to you.
Yes. As already pointed out, the journalist works under a very critical situation. And that is why not just the poor remuneration, of course, that affects psychologically too, because when you are leaving the house as a journalist, you are leaving the wife and children behind, expect to come back with something.
Of course.
When you pay, and if that's where they are tempted. So the owners of the media organizations should look beyond the interest of the machines in the establishment, because most people that set up an organization, they don't do it for the gain of a business, because they have other interests to protect. In most cases, it protect conglomerates, and that's why it's set up. So the interest of the owner of the media organization is more on what he gains rather than the person working there. And the journalist, owners must definitely take care of the journalist. Their pay package should be enhanced. And you see even the dress of a journalist is embarrassing.
Very, very.
It's embarrassing.
Yes.
You see a journalist wearing a coat and wearing a sandal or canvas. And that is first approach to any newsmaker. The moment he sees you in that outfit, you know that he can always buy it through.
Of course.
Psychologically, you are damaged,
yes,
and you are reduced in his eyes. And when a newspaper wants you, he drives the car to your house to pick you. But once the story is written, you may hardly even find a way to go back to your place. So that's the problem. So the owners of the media houses should first of all take care of journalists, their welfare and their life. You see, by the time you go to investigate a story, for instance, you got a scoop in a fireplace, and you have no means to leave that place immediately. You're already endangered, because anything can happen to you. So any person that has a plan to put up a media house should first of all think of the workers in that place before the machines. As at now, the owners, because it's capital intensive, not any two of them cannot set a media house. So those that can afford it are well-to-do in this society, and they do that for it is other than what journalists want. So the journalist must be prepared to stand his ground and say, this is what I want. But unfortunately, since the jobs are not there, somebody has it, and there are so many schools now that offer journalism and mass communications, and it's not every day. So those without those papers, they want to have to survive, and they hang around. So it definitely, as doctor said, insurance is very, very important for a journalist, because anything can happen. You're always on the road. 24 hours you are on duty. You are talking to somebody who may not like you, and if sometimes when you come across an issue that must report, they even have not even picked it. Somebody thinks that you've got it, and your life is endangered. So for that, the journalists must definitely be put in a proper place that can do the job. Even though psychologically, as doctor said, people are actually running out of media practicing now, they're going to into public relations, because that one, a lot of things, what they could take home is there. That's the truth of the matter.
Course,
but here is dangerous and not well remunerated. So except you have the passion, like me, I have the passion for journalism. I don't have in politics, but I go into politics on part-time basis. But my job is journalism, and I do it. In fact, my doctor forgot to tell you, is the first chairman of the Oracle chapter. So my own newspaper.
Yes, of Nigeria Union of Journalists.
He has that record out his
yes,
so
I happen to be the first.
Yes. So the journalist is endangered, and he must be well remunerated. And public too should please learn to respect the journalist.
Okay.
But the expectation too from public is actually too high. As I said, when there's a problem somewhere, someone wants to see the picture, and not just see picture live.
I've established here that aside from carrying arms and other forms of impunity that exist, poor remuneration is also an impunity. Is that our consensus?
It's not just that. It's also a very dangerous.
It's dangerous. Really.
It's a very dangerous dimension that we cannot overlook
It is.
if we want the journalists to produce optimum performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Barrister Amaatimin, you did mention against journalists without the appropriate, justice being served. Amaatimin, why is the situation so?
Apparently because of long and protracted military rule we had in this country. Our democracy is still evolving, and as the same thing can be said of our democratic institutions. And it's rather not very healthy for the nation that in a country that practices democracy, there is near absence of freedom of speech, and then practice of journalism. And the reasons are not far-fetched. Journalists play a very vital role in any democratic society because they serve as watchdog of ensuring that transparency and accountability in governance is guaranteed. Now, flowing from this very important role journalists play in the society, there is always the tendency of the people in government to be afraid of journalists unraveling some truth or some bad governance that is very common in our system. So you understand that there have been instances where journalists are arrested, detained for a very long period of time while discharging their function. And you recall that there was an incident that happened during the End Bad Governance protest where a journalist's phone was seized from him, and the police were one of the senior police officers was there supervising, ensuring that the content that was in his phone was deleted and all that. These are blatant attacks on journalism in this country and should be discouraged. And of a truth, the Constitution has provided remedies for violation of fundamental rights, which includes that of freedom of press. So for those who practice as journalists, if your rights are violated, the courts are there to enforce and give remedy or damages in situations where these rights are violated. Now, I will always make this point, that of a truth, if not for the active journalism we have been having in this country, a lot of things would have gone very, very bad in this country. Because most times you see when journalists follow stories and are keen in knowing what is happening in government, there is always that caution on the part of the leaders to do what is right. So to a very large extent, you see when you see a bad leadership, they're always afraid of the media. They're always afraid of the media because you're always put on your toes. You're always on the hot seat, rendering account for whatever policies you have implemented and how it affects the people. And it provides the people the opportunity of assessing the government too. Because if you listen to some interviews, being it on television or radio, where some senior government officials are engaged on some government policies, you begin to laugh and then have an insight as to the mindset, the psyche of an average Nigerian leader and what preoccupies the mind of our leaders. So these are only possible with journalists doing their work, without any form of intimidation, without any fear or favor. And I wish to comment on the issue of poor category of health workers where they work all around the clock. Because when you are needed, whether it's a public holiday, you're on duty, trying to dish out information to members of the public and all that. So you are always actively working. So if your welfare is compromised, if your take home cannot take you home, then it's rather very unfortunate. And just imagine a situation where you have a very beautiful work environment. But by the time you get home, you don't even have light to even manage the little fan you have, whereas your AC is in the office installed for you. So issues of welfare should transcend just making a very beautiful studio for the journalists or office for them to work. How is their personal living standard or welfare enhanced? If that is not enhanced, then it affects their working cycle. And once it affects, it can easily be compromised. And if your pay is nothing to write home about, you can be partisan or biased in your reportage. Because when you are invited to cover a story, you try to protect even some of the weak side of, from the person who has paid you to do that kind of work. So it's not really healthy for our system. And of a truth, you see advanced countries, even in a war situation, in a war zone, journalists are protected. Once you have your tag of a press man, you are protected. No matter how there is exchange of guns from one point to the other, it is one of the international conventions that journalists covering such wars should be protected. So a situation where we are not even in a war situation, and then people are afraid of journalists doing their work, it's not really healthy for our system.
All right, thank you very much. If you're just tuning in, this is Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi, and we are looking at the International Day to end impunity for crimes against journalists. And of course, the day comes up every November too, and we are discussing ahead of the day. Barrister Amaatimin, before I move from you, I'd like you to speak. There is such thing as the Freedom of Information Act. How can journalists utilize this to, work within their rights, and their rights will be protected through that?
We must give kudos to the Jonathan's administration for giving right to the passage of the Freedom of Information Act, that allows members of the public, inclusive of journalists, to seek public information on government policies and programs. And it is their right to have access to this information, unimpeded access to this information. However, that Freedom of Information Act is obeyed in breach in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because you begin to request for certain information and they are not forthcoming. And most times, even when the court issues or makes an order of mandamus mandating the officer to release such information, we have instances where these public officers do not respect the rights of citizens to have access to public information. So we still have a very long way to go. We really have a long way to go. And it's a welcome development that we have the Freedom of Information Act. And there is a challenge with that act. There have been interpretation by the court that that act is only of application to the federal government. So we need to duplicate that at the various state level. Because you can't compel the state to release public information to you under the Freedom of Information Act. Being it a federal, information itself is a subject matter that is covered both by it's covered by the concurrent list of the Constitution. Both the federal and the state can legislate on the subject matter, right? So it is not exclusive to the federal government. So while the federal government is managing its information, the state equally manage its information. So we need the Freedom of Information law at the state level, more of a resemblance of what is at the federal level, so that states should be transparent in their conduct. Members of the executive at the state and local government should be transparent in their conduct and management of information that are valuable. You need information. Such information are not available. And most times, the same government will begin to say, oh, you are spreading false information. Right? So when you don't have access to information, it gives room for rumors. People begin to speculate. And such the right of citizens and journalists to information, especially public information, should be guaranteed and protected at all times.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Ogbu, Chief mentioned something which we did not deal with, and I'd like you to look at that. You know, sometimes members of the public themselves are found, you know, bringing out a lot of impunities against journalists. This time around, not from the authority, not from the security agencies, but from the members of the public. Like the recent protest we're talking about, a journalist of a renowned national radio station was sharing his experience, how he and his staff were harassed by members of the public and their phones were carted away. What do you say to the members of the public concerning these impunities against journalists?
Yeah, what we are seeing is not different from what I said earlier. It is not as if the members of the public per se are the problem. Where we have problem is the fact that many actors in government and non-government circles have tended to modulate the thinking of so many people. And that thinking is not just against journalists, but against truth. They make you look like you are talking from a platform of irresponsibility and somebody who have interest. Government actors, non-government actors who have tended to modulate our thinking such that very critical issues of development we no longer think about them positively in our country. And so we have a public that is now against people who are advocating for them because their thinking have been modulated. So it's a very dangerous situation. It's not only about journalists, but it has affected the psyche of many Nigerians, such that it is what they see. If you come and flag, because they have inflicted us with a lot of poverty, with a lot of lack, with a lot of, they have dehumanized us, like Otse said, Chief Otokpa said, they have dehumanized us, including the journalists, beyond redemption. It has come to a situation where anything goes. You are fighting for people, the people turn against you. And so it's not common. As an example, most times we stand out to talk in the interests of students. The very students that we stand to talk and protect their interests, they go behind, capture their leaders, give them small money, and they begin to fight against the very people that are facilitating knowledge, the very people that are delivering them from, from ignorance and other subjugation. They don't understand. So our understanding has been modulated, and so we don't even know who is fighting for us, who is doing a good cause, fronting for a good cause, because we are made to believe that everything that is good is bad.
All right. So, Chief Otokpa, we started mentioning some of the safety protocols, to safeguard journalists in their line of duty. One of the things I remember you said was the issue of proper remuneration, and that is being noted. Now, that's for media outlets. Coming to the government, what would you suggest are some of the safety protocols that should be put in place by the government to safeguard the rights of journalists in their line of duty?
First of all, the actors of government should be open to themselves to start with. If they're open to themselves and do what is right, then there are no reason to be afraid of any journalist. But so long as those actors, public officers, don't do what they tell us, they'll be scared of anybody that wants to know the truth of the situation. So what we need here is the public actors must be sincere. The barrister talk of the Freedom of Information Act. That's the words that any public official would like to hear. No, nobody wants. I have okay. Sorry, let me digress a bit. Some days you did the palliative of a thing. I went to the palliative story, and what I got wasn't very palatable. And the junior person came and confronted me. Abba, former editor, former advisor, former chairman, you advise. I said yes. These are the facts. They don't agree with me. But unfortunately, the big man came crying. I said, you see, if you've done me to publish story, then stop what you're trying to do. Of course, the man that in my presence, he had to give those things back. Well, as a journalist, I keep saying that you have your interest to protect as well. You must live to do the job. Because when you publish, and damn the consequence I used to say, then if you are killed, the job is finished. But the journalist must be a lion and a fox. That's how I practice the snares are. You get it? So we must operate within the system that what we are controlling. Which is part of, but even as journalists, you see, when you talk on Twitter against journalists, what about ourselves? Some members of the union, as doctor said, will connect some public officers even to sell you out. To not actually harassing you. So while we talk of government, we talk of ourselves as well. Let journalists be sincere themselves. You see, as a reporter, you must be trained. The problem is that most reporters are not trained. Somebody pick a handset in any public function and bring to that as a journalist. And those are people that are actually killing the system for us. But if those things are corrected, I believe that the church will be protected because we must do the job. If we don't do it, they are. And that's why I don't want to see journalists. So thank you very much.
All right, Barrister Amaatimin, over to you. We're always taking on the legal aspect. So has there been a proper accountability on the government regarding the handling of, impunity cases against journalists?
Of the truth, the government has not really been alive to its responsibility in handling such issues. In fact, most times they are even waived on the face value without looking into the substance. Now, I envisaged or look forward to a day that we'll have practitioners of this profession follow the same process of one becoming a lawyer or becoming a licensed surveyor or an engineer in this country to checkmate quackery or those persons who are not professionally trained to do the work of journalism, because it's a very, very important role. Just like they rightly, opined in their assessment. We have a lot of journalists online these days. English feels he can report any incident without looking at some other professional ethics that are involved in this work.
Are they really journalists? You call them journalists?
Now, they call themselves, right?
Okay.
So we should have a situation.
They are citizen journalists.
Yeah, okay, all right. So to practice. If you are not a lawyer and you present yourself as one, then you'll be charged for impersonation, right? So we can equally regulate the journalism profession in that direction so that all these mushroom people who without any formal training in the area of journalism will begin to report stories without looking at some other factors, because in every story there are two sides to every story, and most times you even look at the impact of your story on the society. So you have a situation, an accident scene, and people are more interested in taking pictures of the victims or persons who have sustained injury in the accident than providing first aid to them. So these are some issues that needs to be checkmated so that we have a more viable and more vibrant press in this country. Because for me, just holding a pen is not enough for you to be classified as a journalist. For those who have undergone the training, they know the ethics, they know what it's involved in every story they follow and how to go about, and the right of journalists in having access to this information. And for me, I believe it should even be made to affect even private institutions. It shouldn't just be government institutions, because as a lawyer, we have instances where you even write to some corporate bodies or institutions. You either write a letter of demand, they have no courtesy of even responding to your grievances. You have a concern, a customer has a concern, and then you channel that concern to the relevant body and nothing is done. They don't even acknowledge your letter to the effect that, yes, we are reviewing your letter, we are working towards resolving some of the issues you have raised in that letter. So if we have both the private sector, it shouldn't just be government being accountable or public institution being accountable. Private institutions should equally be accountable to citizens. And that right, unfettered right of journalists to have access to this information shouldn't be qualified.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much,
so
Barrister.
Let me take, you see, on professionalism and membership, as you said about lawyers, filed and registered in the chapter in the council before becoming a private journalist. But issue is, how do we enforce it? That's the level that we are having now.
All right, Chief, I beg to interrupt
okay,
you.
No
we
problem.
would take on that as soon as I'm done with this aspect now. All right, listener, it's now a minute past 10. 335-9292. That is 0814-335-9292. And then when you call, remember to go straight to the point. No name calling. Do not speak any derogatory statements. Do not indict anyone. Go straight.
Sir, I appreciate this program because this program is wonderful for us. And another thing where I want comment is that all these things are saying that I'm following this program from the beginning, and all these things are saying is the truth. But some lawyers, you discover that some lawyers, when you carry the case to them, my problem is that when you carry the case to them, some lawyers, I don't know whether they are trained or they know what they are there. Because some people, the way they will be judging
David, we are talking about journalists. That's the focus.
Okay,
so maybe we'll talk about lawyers another day.
All right, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for being part of the program. All right, so today the focus is on International Day of Impunity Against Crime. Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Peter Shakume, and I'm calling you from Benue State University.
All right, Peter Shakume, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say a wonderful
Peter Shakume, you can call us back 0814-335-9292. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, this is John Moses calling from Logo 1.
All right, John Moses from Logo 1, go ahead.
Sir. Hello?
Yes, we're with you, go ahead.
Okay, sir. I don't have anything to say, just to appreciate you people to be enlightening us for what to do and what not do.
All right, this means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
This program is very nice to us. I followed this program from the beginning. I really enjoy it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to us. All right, you can also be part of the conversation by dialing 0814-335-9292. Alternatively, you can send a short message to 0912-699-9404, and that is also the number for WhatsApp messages. Hello?
Yes.
All right. From where?
From BC, calling from BC, Benue University Hospital.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, to some point, the advent of social media have really helped the field of journalism. Because sometimes most of journalists, they post some news with an anonymous handle. And again, to some point, journalism has helped to curtail many crimes that would have gone unnoticed. Unlike during the military regime that journalists were being suppressed, but to some point now, during the they have more leverage, although it's limited to some point. Just like if you look at the recent case of a House of Rep member assaulting a cab driver, if not because of journalism, if not because of social media, that would have gone unnoticed. So, my suggestion is I pray the journalists should have more freedom to operate within their context, and politicians should not be using them as an opposition tool Because sometimes when they want to criticize a particular government, they use the journalist to bring some news that might not really be factual.
All right, thank you very
much. That's my submission that yes, journalists should be given good time to practice, but they should be practicing with caution.
Responsibility. Thank you very much, Tenenge Ibudu, for your submission. All right, you too can be part of the program if you dial the number 0814-335-9292. Hello. Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and location?
My name is Yosende Oshi. I'm calling from Masukunya, a man from Yande Boko local government.
Your name is?
Huh?
Your name is?
My name is Yosende Oshi. I am calling from Masukunya, a man from Yande Boko local government.
Thank you very much, the man from Yande. Go ahead and make your submission.
I appreciate you people for this special program that you are presenting me to love now. Because the journalists have to have that opportunity to do, they have to have the freedom to do whatever. Because sometimes there is some things in secrecy which we didn't have to know, but they used to make it not in order to make that thing hidden. So they make that popular for us to verify very well that such is happening. Not by mentioning their own this, but when they said it, we used to understand. And also the politicians, I am telling them, can I say the work that they are doing is just like they are doing this program that sometimes we used to do when I was in KC, I used to do it in Abuja a bit too. All that we are confusing for this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for praising the information and educational role of the mass media. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, before the call started coming in, you were talking about
the caller said something about politicians using journalists to fight their cause. You see, every media organization has its own what's called editorial policy. You get it? So when an individual or government sets up a media house, it gives editors, editorial staff its own editorial policy. That policy to a very large extent protect the interests of the owner. So when a politician or any public officer or anybody, for instance, gets a journalist, he would like to tell the story that the sole story to that person. But that's what cannot be acceptable in all the media houses. Maybe you have to select the media organization that is amenable to the editorial policy. So, and as we said, you see, most journalists are now becoming public relations officers. You have one politician, he has a chain of media, is that consultants or media aides. Media aides, all of them, all they do is that they want to say everything good about that person. And if you are an opposition person writing against that, they come back, they attack you. So what the man says is actually true, but it depends on whom the journalist is working for. And that's like in every media organization, the police must be protected. Am I right, Doctor?
Yes, you're right.
All right, thank you.
And in addition to that, if the space is available for us to comment, one of the callers also drew attention to the issue of responsibility on the part of journalists. And I think we need to balance this conversation by drawing attention to that issue.
All right. Okay, we'll get to that.
Okay.
All right. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, please.
Yes. What's your name and location?
My name is Peter Shakuma. I'm calling you from my office, Benue State University.
All right.
Yeah, I tried actually connecting for the first time, but network got me.
All right. Thank God you're here now, sir.
To the panel, you have the erudite panel member of panels that you have there, the barrister, the retired man and retired boy. My contribution to this particular aspect is this the remuneration and maybe the functionality of the journalist.
Yes.
The NUJ and NIPR could do a bit more better by ensuring that the standard that establishes the practice are maintained and ensured. That so to the extent that the journalist is not given this kind of It's not waved by the side. It's not given a wave of wand from people just pick phones now go to events and become journalists. That shouldn't be. Their mode of reportage shouldn't be that of the regular media where people who are of substance pick valuable information. The standards should be there, and once they are maintained, the remuneration too should come into existence. If it is standardized that once you are able to bring out a media outfit, you should specify the remuneration to the standard that NUJ wants, to the standard that NIPR professes. Once these things are put in practice, the journalist who is out there will be given more dignity. Because this aspect that an outfit will just give out an ID card to a journalist who goes out there and fend for himself does not augur well for the practice. And that brings down the essence of the practice to a large extent. So I'm advocating that NUJ and NIPR should do a more thorough job in ensuring better remuneration and then the standards in practice.
All right.
That's just my take this morning.
Thank you very much, Peter Shakume, for your take. It's really insightful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, you can also join the program 0814-335-9292. There's also a provision for WhatsApp and text messages. That is at 091-2699-9404. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Ogbu.
Good morning, sir.
My childhood friend, Amaatimin. And good morning to the chief in the house.
God bless you.
All right, what's your name and location?
Yes, I'll get to that. Good. My name is Fanen.
Oh, okay.
I'm calling from the Department of Biological Sciences.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. I really appreciate this program. It has really revealed some gray areas in the profession where your distinguished panelists have highlighted a lot of challenges journalists are facing. This is true. Those who are not even part of the profession, they can also agree to what they have said in a larger extent. The challenge with that profession, like they have highlighted, and I would love to say, is the issue of remuneration. Actually, journalists are not well paid in this country, and you can look at the standard of their living. It's not correct. You see, there's what we used to then while we were coming up. We loved the profession, even though we were science oriented. I want to talk about mentorship. There were journalists who could mentor the younger ones, just like Dr. Ogbu have acknowledged chief in the house. That is how it used to be. You must pass through some hands that will strengthen you and throw you to the larger society where you will be accepted and people will recommend as it is. But mentorship is lacking in this profession. Okay, now, one wants to be a broadcast journalist. He goes on air and it's not quite enticing to those who are listening to him. We are lacking editors. I don't know why they are running away from the editorial and then they feel to be more on the broadcast aspect, where even the mode of pronunciation is very poor. I must say this. I've listened to radios. At the point, I really wanted to take a degree in mass comm, because of the profession. And exactly, some people, you have abridged journalist profession, so to say. As the fourth estate of the realm, you really need to portray a profession that people would love to go into. Not when you are asked to give a report, the report is quite jaundiced in a manner of speaking. It doesn't give an impression of one who was sent on the field. And then you wonder, what is going on? Is it that the trainings are not given? No, they are given. I must attest to the doctor in the studio there. He's doing his best. The department is doing his best. And so what of? And then actually, there are some gray areas that need to be touched. And then the hazard they face on the job is quite scary. You see, journalists are beaten everywhere. And it's a call for concern. Why should you beat a professional in his line of duty? It is not correct. Now, I want journalists to draw out some questions going forward. And first of it is that they should try to ask the country that why is the change of a transformative kind so elusive in the 21st century? And then, actually, they have managed to bring out the way our leaders are governing us. That is the major problem. I encourage the journalists to do their best and to continue their good line of duty. Thank you, and have a nice day.
All right, thank you very much, Fiase Mutun, for your submissions. All right, the number to call is 0814-335-9292. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes. My name is Jude. I'm calling from Bakuman.
Pardon?
Jude Upere, moderator. I appreciate your guest for the analysis this morning. Many callers have talked, have called and laid their submission. I appreciate them. What
Jude,
I want to...
Hello, Jude.
Yeah?
Could you please turn down the volume of your radio so we could hear you without itches?
Okay, I'm away from it.
All right, thank you very much.
Is it better now?
It's better.
Okay, thank you. You know, the last administration, previous administration passed the Freedom of Information Bill into law. Is the bill working? Because there are certain areas that journalists encounter difficulties digging out facts to publish and disseminate to the masses, because you find out that in some offices it will be written board, no press, and when you dare attempt to enter such facilities, you are being beaten, just like the last caller said. Your communication gadgets destroyed, and the security or welfare of journalists, are they protected? They are being harassed, tortured, and beaten. So journalists to be allowed to go extra mile, dig up fast information, investigative journalism in court, and bring out fast so that members of the public will access such information. And to the journalists themselves or pressmen, quackery. Any person that pick up pens and write today is a pressman. You go everywhere, we find them at occasions everywhere. That shouldn't be so. They should eliminate quackery within themselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Jude, for your submission. All right, someone said, or your access to social media, you aren't a journalist.
This Agatha also Paul at Achusa, Backup Baptist High School.
All right, Agatha also go ahead with your submission.
Yeah, I really want to appreciate you and all your guests in the studio. This is a very sensible topic. By right, a journalist should be protected worldwide, and they should have the freedom of getting information to sensitize people. But nowadays, sometimes a journalist will be in a particular event, or can I say a government function, and at the end of the day, they will be waiting around for passing of envelope. Is that what a journalist is supposed to do? Sometimes, after any function of the government, they will be waiting for the aid, for the media aid of the government to issue a passing of envelope to them. Then at the end of the day, what they have gathered by the information or the fact they have gathered in that occasion, when coming back to air it, you will not even got the details of what happened, and then at the end of the day, it would just be a flash of what took place that will be aired. So is that how a journalist is supposed to act? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Agatha, also for your submission. 0814-335-92.
Fanen.
Yes, good morning.
This is Magdalene from Yakio.
All right, Magdalene, go ahead with your submission.
I want to greet my lecturer, Associate Professor Ben Ogbu, and Barrister Amaatimin, and the other guests in the studio. I want to appreciate all of you for your contributions. This is a very interesting topic that the whole world needs to listen to. You know, the journalists have suffered greatly. You go to the media houses, they are...
Magdalene Yohumba, you can call us back at 0814-335-9292 and then join the conversation.
Hello.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
What's your name and location?
Yes, my name is E.T. TV Abraham, calling from behind Federal Locust, North Bank, Makurdi.
All right, TV, go ahead.
Yes, I must applaud the panelists for the well-established views in line with this sensitive topic. That notwithstanding, I want to say that the media in Nigeria has been a place of government of the day to examine what is negative and also the negative side. So what I want to urge is the government or the union should journalists to ensuring that the public has the right page and the right information. I want to also encourage government that the media who are called journalists are the people who have stand in the middle of the public and that of the government itself in creating public accountability. And there is a need for their welfare to be improving so as to have all the public and the society carry along in every government policy. And also the journalists should be given security at the place where it is required, because as a people who are charged with information, they needed to go there and deep in so as the public will also know exactly what is going on. And with that, I can appreciate the government for this job well done. And if the security architecture in the narrative of journalists is being improving and then ensuring that they are moved with security in some areas to have the public being enlightened on certain issues, then I will believe that yes, the journalists will do their work deeply, and also their welfare should be maximized. As a people who have been working up and down, they needed a welfare, they need an incentive that will improving their health standards and also their household. And so thank you so much for the platform and for the opportunity this morning. Good morning, sir.
All right, thank you very much. It's TV from North Bank. You can still join the conversation, 0814-335-9292. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. What's your name and location?
My name is Jonathan Ichawe. I'm calling from North Bank, Uduko Estate, Makurdi.
All right, Jonathan Chabe, go ahead with your submission.
Yes. I think let me express my appreciation for the panelists. They have established very well what very well establishes in a corrupt society like ours. I think the most dangerous profession is journalism.
I think so too.
It's more dangerous than the soldiers. Because the soldiers, except there is a war, there's not too much danger for them. It is therefore sad to hear that journalists' lives are not insured. You remember what happened to Derigua? And on the international level, his body was found dangling under the London Bridge. So my appeal to media houses owners is please in conditions of working. I think if we were to put valuation on the jobs, the journalist job in the society will rank very high. So their pay should really be looked into by the owners of media houses. Yes, in every profession there are bad eggs. So some people are talking about journalists waiting for envelopes and so on. With the pure remuneration, I will not be too surprised if that is happening. But it's not general. It's just among the OIX. I was very surprised, however, that journalists didn't really, what shall I say, talk much about the local government elections in our state. I think they did not observe what was going on that election day. And not only in Benue State, in all the state of the federation, the ruling party just clears all the controversies.
All right. Sir Jonathan, that's a topic for another day. That's a topic for another day. Thank you very much for your submissions. They are indeed insightful.
Right,
yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, you can also join the conversation 0814-335-9292. And in case you're just joining us, this is Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. Okay, one more call and then we'll react to the issues. Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning. What's your name and location?
This is Vincent Ako. I'm calling from Michelle Bakut Road.
Okay, Vincent Ako, go ahead with your submission.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank all your guests in the studio. They've all spoken well. You see, journalism as a profession, it's a very good profession, and as a matter of fact, it's also a very dangerous profession as far as Africa is concerned. Although other parts of the world, there are attacks on journalists, not only Africa, but Africa in particular, their own is too much. I want to say that journalists should be protected because the reportage that they are carrying out is something that somebody can pick offense and then start haunting them for no reason, simply because maybe they must have reported something that the person did that is not good. So the security of journalists should be prioritized. And I also want to advise journalists that they should also be straightforward in their reportage. They shouldn't do anything that will tarnish their image. They should do their job as somehow as it should be. They should not dance to the tune of their paymaster, because if you look at what is going on in Nigeria now, many journalists often dance to their paymaster simply because they don't want to be sacked. So I'm advising them that they should do the needful, and then government too should do the needful by providing adequate security for their safety. Thank you very much, my brother, for giving me the opportunity.
All right, thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you.
So we put a hold on the course for now and allow room for our panelists to react to some of the issues raised. First of all, Tenenge Igbudu of BSU Teaching Hospital talked about the presence of social media hammering on more freedom for journalists. And then particularly, Chief, I would like you to respond to this. This was Peter Shakume calling on the NUJ and the NIPR, was a public relations group, to do better in ensuring standards in their profession. Chief.
On the issue of the social media, that to go to Dr. Buddha's area of socialization.
Yes, I mean you should react to ensuring standards in...
The standard, as I said, there's a standard of media practice. What we lack now is enforcement. That's the truth of the matter. There's a standard. Now, before you become a practice journalist in this country, you must be formally trained. You must be registered. You must belong to a chapter, but belong to a council. So now it's now left for us as professionals to ensure that these conditions are met. Like the barrister said, you can't just put on wig and go to court and they allow you. But in journalism, people, okay, thank God that some members of the public are now appreciating the problem of journalists. the few calls I've got now, people are appreciating our problems. So it's now left for us to look at our clean and do some in-house cleaning. So when you go for a function, you are definitely some senior person must be there. So he has to take the stance of those that are not practicing journalists. But unfortunately, the persons or people organizing the occasion know whom they're inviting. And most people that they invite to the occasions are not journalists. And we ask them to go because an issue you and the organization. So what we need to do is that NUJ, as at now in Benue State here, to address the press conference, I don't know what it is about, if the press conference must take place in NUJ building. So we can control the influence of those that are not part of us. But unfortunately, recently people can address the press anywhere. Most on the election of NUJ in Benue State here to ensure they listen to us so that they can enforce what we are talking about. In fact, I'm surprised that as we are talking, no journalist has called it. I expect some journalists to call us. Yeah, exactly. Because this affects us directly. And each one of us is involved in this problem. So I should call and tell us there is a period on the future I can help us to write things. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. There was a mention of mentorship, hazards and a whole lot of that by Fiase Mutum. He talked about remuneration also, talked about mentorship and hazard. Dr. Ogbu, would you like to respond to mentorship?
Yes, thank you very much. You talked about social media or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so the issue of social media we may not be able to handle it completely in this conversation because it's a huge, huge area of its own. Information dissemination cannot be denied. It provides a very huge platform. The problem is that we don't seem to have regulatory mechanism for use of social media. Many of the regulations, the lawyer is here, seems to find their expression in existing legal framework like defamation and the rest of that. We do not have a cyberspace regulatory framework to check excesses on the social media. And so everybody is a journalist. And that's not correct. But let me say something about social media that is very good. When we talk about social media, we should recognize the fact that the level we are in Nigeria, if not for social media, there would probably not be conventional mainstream media anymore. They would have put them to bed completely. But why many actors in public affairs are still patronizing mainstream media is the fact that they believe that credible information emanates from mainstream media. And that if we don't patronize them, whether you like it or not, someone else will report his own version via the instrument of social media. That has provided a huge cover and protection to the existence and continuous existence of traditional mainstream media in Nigeria. Given the realities of our impunity and all, it would have been very difficult for the traditional media to exist. Then you talked about the issue of
mentorship.
But before mentorship, because of time, I like to talk about the issue that somebody raised of irresponsibility, because we cannot strike a balance in this conversation if we take it completely from the view of crimes against journalists. Some of the crimes against journalists are justified, and we must say this.
Okay.
They are justified in irresponsible conducts of journalists in terms of content that they generate that have flavor of falsehood, misinformation, portrayal of groups and individuals in bad lights. And when you do things like this, people are bound to react. People are bound to react. If you don't respect law, nobody will respect law in dealing with you. So it behoves on journalists to present contents that are within the frame of responsibility. Again, a journalist is not always that we as journalists must be seen to be attacking government. It is not. It is within the frame of our social responsibility to douse certain tension in government and governance, because we are critical actors. It's not always that we must carry the cutlass to show that we are journalists. There are issues there are critical issues of state policy and management that if we must not publish, we must not publish them. And if we must publish them, we must select content in a manner that will not incite people or create disorder or create some kind of impression about government that will be against public interest. So these are issues that we need to check as responsible journalists and journalism. If we don't do that, we will continue to extend this conversation on crime against journalists without an end. But if journalists are responsible, then it will be nice. I'm an example. We talk about mentorship. I have said it in this conversation that I give it very hugely to my mentor, my friend. I've worked with him both in the public and private sector, and I have learned quite a lot of things from him. I remember his story I wrote many years ago, and I hope you will still remember. Okay. There was a case that one serial was murdered. Okay? One Igbo chap was, I think something happened and he was murdered. And they suspected that the police were behind the issue. So I came with a caption, police brutality. And then I took it to him. He was editor then. He said, no. He changed it to the title to Makurdi killing instead of police brutality. So that is, you can see it. It carries the same thing, but not in that aggressive voice that I wanted it portrayed. So mentorship is critical. All of the issues we are talking about, responsibility of journalists, are largely tied to training and mentorship. And I believe that journalists should be able to submit themselves to authorities that can mentor them and produce them in the purity that society is looking for them, so that it can reflect in the kind of contents that they generate for public consumption.
All right, over to you, Barrister Amaatimin. Someone had raised the issue of strengthening the Freedom of Information Act, and then that's Jude Upevi of Bakumengwe East Local Government area. He talked about strengthening the Freedom of Information Act. So what do you suggest in this regard?
I agree with him, and I feel that the various state governments should equally have a Freedom of Information law at the state level that seeks to make information available to journalists as far as governance at that level is concerned. I must raise this concern. I have seen that in recent times, there seems to be over-censorship on the part of the regulator in terms of media houses, where certain broadcasts are flagged off and then fines are imposed on media houses and asked to pay for either publishing or releasing information that seems to be against either government. So I think it's not the way to go. If we begin to cage media houses, you want them to have their opinions on issues. We have laws on defamation and libel. If there are no element of truth in their reportage, then they should be held to account, right? So a situation where people are fined by the same person who is alleging, the accuser is a witness and is the judge. It's not really healthy for our system. So journalists should be allowed to practice their profession unhindered and in an atmosphere where they will be encouraged to do their work without fear or favor. We need them in our society. We need them for the growth of our society, and we need them for the sustenance of our society.
All right, as we begin to gradually round off because of our time, I'd like you to quickly speak on this.
We have longed to have more of a partnership between the NBA and then the Nigerian Union of Journalists.
NUJ.
Yes, the NUJ. So that situations of human rights violation of journalists and all that, we have an arm of the NBA that handles issues of human rights violation. So journalists shouldn't be intimidated without being, seeking redress in court by the perpetrators of this act. And such services are rendered pro bono. So by the time journalists who are victims of some of these acts of lawlessness, it behooves on them to seek redress in court. And when some of these things are done, it's easier to correct some of these abnormally in our society. if not because of Tony Momo went to court to challenge the Senate for them seeking to summon him or compel him to disclose the source of information, maybe some journalists wouldn't have gotten the courage to do that. So it's time to hold government accountable and hold the people accountable. And we have situations where during electioneering campaign, people go around promising heaven and earth. And then after elections, they forget their manifesto and then begin to go on with their normal lives and do not expect journalists to hold them accountable for their promises. But that is not the way to go. So for me, I am fully in support of the journalism profession. It is one of the professions I respect so much. In fact, for some of us, without listening to news, you're as good as out of this world. You're not in existence. So every day you look onto listening to stories and updates about happenings in your environment. And events can only be done with journalists doing their work in a very good environment, a motivated environment where they are free to practice their profession without any fear of intimidation from any quarters.
All right. Okay, Chief, speak to those who unleash violence against journalists, either as government officials, security agents, or individuals.
It's already a crime to attack anybody. And if you do that to a journalist, you are doing that to the conscience of the society.
Of course.
Like what the barrister said, there's nobody that does not listen to news item. No. It's either it's on the radio, television, on the papers. But who brings this out to you? Even though that are attacking journalists, they still read newspapers. That's the truth of the matter. They are looking for stories from radio, looking for stories from TV and papers, but they still attack those that bring this matter to them. Like what the doctor said, when they work for students, they went to protest students now attack them in a way. Sometimes when journalists want to public attack us, in any case, we are appealing to the conscience of the people. They should understand that this man that brings out the story has done to the good of the society. And like what my parents have said, we need that responsibility. We must be responsible in doing certain things. Actually, in fact, somebody talk about people waiting to collect something it's true. But then that has to do with the remuneration of the journalist. Yeah. If you are well remunerated, you go to an assignment with your car, maybe an air-conditioned car, you have a number to buy fuel, and then you simply come up with your story. And when you do that, the person they'll follow you to your place. But when you hold on to collect whatever, that's the end of the story. That now you now keep the story. But we are feeling that people should understand with journalists, and journalism must understand with the society, because without society, there's no journalism. Without journalism, there's no society. So we must interact. Thank you very much.
All right, the program is Deep Perspectives, and then the phone line is again up for you to be part of the conversation. Remember, it's 0814-335-9292. Hello.
Yes, this is Magdalene from Yakio calling back.
Okay, Magdalene, go ahead.
You see, before you are called to bar to be a lawyer, a barrister, you must pass your bar final. The barrister in the studio there knows that.
That's true.
And you all know that. So what about the journalist? What is expected of one becoming a journalist? Or is it after graduating from the university, and then you begin to call yourself a journalist? When you go to these media houses, you find out that people who studied microbiology, with this one, that one, they are there working comfortably, they commit all blunders, and then these things are attributed to us who did this and did that. You know, they are not checked because they may not have resources to pay like the lawyers do to themselves. They just employ people and pay them tokens. Before you employ a lawyer in your office, you know that you can't pay him 40,000 for a month. It will not work. But for the journalists, it goes because they are looked as if they are nobody in the society and anything goes. So I am appealing that we should know our bearing. We should know what exactly is expected of us to do. Because if we don't know who we are, people will trample on us anytime and anywhere. And it goes. No one cares about it. So NUJ should sit up. We should know exactly what to do. The registration, what exams you're supposed to do, not just carrying phones as media aids to the government officials. I have more to say, but I think there is no time.
You have said
end here. Thank you.
Sorry. Let me comment what you said.
Okay.
Like let's departments that have to go into the production. You have maybe sports, medical, lawyer, all that and all that. So you must have those professionals in those areas that can give you professional materials on those aspects. But then you have the editor and the news editor, so
which are core professional.
Which are core professional journalists. So all these that's written have to pass through those desks. Pass the features editor, the news editor, then go to the editor. So at least they cross the T's and they dot the I's and cross the T's. But it must be professionally based, because as a journalist, maybe I read mass comm, I may not be able to write on law. I can write on sports, and so having those professionals in the is normal.
It's not bad.
It's normal. It's normal, but they must be controlled.
All right. So having professionals is not bad. Let's get to listen to one more call, and then we go. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. Good morning.
My name is Igbayi Makura, a video and purpose from Wakumba Tiago government.
Igbayi Makura, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Igbayi, go ahead with your submission.
My regards to your guest in the studio.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Journalists are salt and light of the world.
Okay.
With the help of journalists, as I'm a video and person, listening to your program from the beginning up to this moment, I have embraced myself with what is happening around the world. And seeing journalists as a partner in progress, being it government or individual or civil society or now governmental organization, it will go a long way to help this society that we are living in. And I think taking the welfare of journalists, utilizing them to what they're supposed to do efficiently, as well as training and retraining them, it will help, and giving them security so that they will function efficiently. And journalists too, adhering strictly to the code and conduct, strictly to what they're supposed to do in their line of duties, it will be a good one. So all these things put in place, I think impunity against journalists will be over. That is my take. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Igbayi Makura, for your take. All right, Dr. Ben Ogbu, how we are rounding off now. How can Nigeria improve its record on journalist safety?
Yeah, to improve for our dear country Nigeria to improve its record on the safety of journalists is tied to will be more like a summary of this conversation. And number one is to be sure that there are policies to protect the welfare and well-being of journalists in terms of motivation and other forms of energy stimulation that will enhance performance of journalists, knowing that they are critical to the survival of society. Number two, like we said, is the fact that we need to control our emotion in dealing with journalists. We are aware that journalists, try to uncover facts that we want to cover, but we should know that they do that in the interest of society. And so we must, government should be able to know that it is not in attacking journalists that is the issue, but that in protecting journalists and then allowing them to do their work, then it will help government actors to also carry out their duty in a way that they can give transparent account to the public. So it's important for government to do this and even ensure that non-government institutions like private sector also are able to provide cover and protection for journalists. And more important, life insurance, so that they will be able to go all out to cover information and then process them and disseminate to the target interest in the interest of the good of society.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Ben Ogbu. All right, Chief, 30 seconds, your parting words.
Well, the state must protect the journalist. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay.
They must be protected. And must be well remunerated. Then we must be responsible. That's it.
All right, state protect, well remunerated, and then journalists must be responsible. Okay, Barrister Amaatimin, your parting words, 30 seconds.
A free press is the way to develop any nation. And the journalists must appreciate the fact that they are the watchdog of the society by investigating and reporting government activities, holding public officials accountable, and then promoting transparency and good governance. And then they must foster national debate on public.
Barrister Amaatimin. Okay, let me start in this order. Dr. Ben Ogbu is a senior lecturer with the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies at the Benue State University.
And also the communication officer of the Center for Food Technology and Research, Benue State University.
All right, thank you very much for coming on the program. Okay, also with us is a veteran journalist and former editor of the Voice newspaper, Chief Otse Otokpa. Chief, thank you very much for honoring our program.
And publisher of the Raccoon newspaper.
Oh, okay.
And a member of IPAN.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief, for coming. And then lastly, but not the least, so legal practitioner and public affairs commentator, Barrister Timothy Amaatimin. Thank you very much for your resourcefulness on the program.
Thank you very much. It was delightful, having my elders around. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, listener, that's our program for today. Thank you very much for always staying tuned to our Gate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. Join us again next week, Monday, for another, educating edition of Perspectives. My name is Fanen Kuanum. Good morning.